Welcome to Space and Grace, the podcast for soul-led entrepreneurs done hustling for their worth. Let's build a life and business that actually feels like freedom.
I'm going to talk about the Lunar Blueprint, and this is how you can stay rich in your energy even before the money that you're calling in arrives. So, if you are consistently pushing and hustling and running, and you always feel like you're behind as you're building your business, or you never feel like you have enough money, then I want to offer you a more sustainable way to plan your projects out. And we're going to plan them. I'm going to teach you how to plan them out across a lunar cycle. Before I learned about moon phase planning, I would have an idea. I would think it was brilliant and I would run towards it. And then I would feel exhausted. I wouldn't have the result that I thought I was going to get. I'd get more and more confused about who I was and what I was doing. And I would lose I would lose all sense of trust in my intuition because I thought it was my intuition that was making me do that. I know differently now. I know my intuition is actually way more subtle. My intuition always encourages me to rest first and be still and be calm. And I get way better ideas when I listen, and I'm doing way less and getting way better results. So, what's not to love? But we are going to plan out. I'll just teach you how to plan things out across the lunar cycle because this was the first this was the first tool that I became aware of where I was actively encouraged to rest, not the whole time because that would never have worked for me, but during one phase of the moon, we get to rest and we do it as a business strategy. We do it so that we can run faster later on if we want to. We do it so that we can actually come up with the brilliant ideas that are waiting to be birthed through us. So you get to create your vision. You get to plot out different activities throughout the lunar phases. You get to rest. And then you can assess and do it all again or do it differently the next time. It's just a beautiful, sustainable way to do things instead of the way that I used to do it. And I know a lot of other people who used to do it this way, who still do it this way, where you're just running consistently and you're never giving yourself that break. And when you try and build a business that way, you're going to end up with a business that always needs that from you. You can't expect to push and hustle and run and end up at a place where you finally get to put your feet up because you're not that sort of person, right? If you want to create a business where you get to rest and have things come to you and you for it to be easy, then you have to train your body to accept that along the way. You have to allow your body to expand into this version of you who has everything that they want without the chaos and the drama and the burnout. Something I also love about moon phase planning is it just reminds me that I'm part of nature, that I'm part of something bigger than just this really long, never ending to-do list. It helps me just remember that I am cyclical. I am a woman. I am a human. I live through seasons in my own life, seasons in my own body. So I get to it's just way more grounding than running around like a crazy person with, like a chicken with your head cut off, just trying to do a whole bunch of stuff and then ending up with results that are less than satisfactory. Okay, so I am going to break the phases of the moon just into 4 phases. All right, you can get, as you've seen from listening to the other interviews, um, you can get as technical as you want to, or you could just take a really big picture view and make it work for you. And this is what I love about moon phase planning is it gets to be really simple. So the first phase of the moon is we start at the dark moon, the new moon, and we go to the first quarter. So that's it, right? And what we're going to do during this stage is we're going to figure out what we want to work on for this part or for this lunar cycle. And we also get to decide who we want to be for this upcoming cycle and how we want to behave. And So we figure out what we want to do, and we figure out who we are as we're doing it, who we get to become as we are having this experience. So maybe you want to do a new launch. You want to launch something brand new. Or maybe you just want to relaunch something, either the exact same way you did it before, or you want to add a few bells and whistles. Maybe there's a new skill set that you want to learn, or maybe there's a new revenue stream that you want to explore. And all of these things, we don't get to just keep piling stuff on. We actually have to be really thoughtful, because we only have so much time, but we also only have so much energy. And I think energy, well, it's all intermingled, but we all have 24 hours in a day, and we can run, or we can chill out, and we can just be really strategic about where we put our focus, and we get to choose that. So what I would love for you to do, I'm just going to read out some questions as prompts for you. You can ask yourself, what decision would I make if I already trusted the money and the success was coming? And you can write down as many ideas as you want. What decision would you make? What does the version of me who already has the result know that I need to learn? Now, this is a tricky one, because you might actually already know everything that you need. You might just have some other reason that's preventing you from taking action. But sometimes you actually do need to learn a new skill. What would this version of you say yes to right now? And what would they ignore or say no to? Okay, so then once you've got your idea, you get to just take a little bit of action, test it out. And what I like to do is talk to somebody that I really trust. And it's not to have them decide for me. It's to have them reflect back what they're hearing from me as just a sounding board. Like, is this completely nuts? Is this something that's just going to keep me distracted when actually I know exactly what I need to do? I'm just too scared to do it. Or is this something that's really going to help me in some way, by learning the new skill, adding a different revenue stream, tweaking a launch? Like, am I just learning this new thing or adding this new thing just so I can stay busy and feel productive? Or is it actually going to serve me? And these are the things that you want to talk about with a trusted friend or a coach or a mentor. You don't want to talk, I'm sure you already know this, but you don't want to talk to somebody who's going to actively talk you out of it or worry what impact your decision is going to have on them, right? It needs to be really clean energy. But you do need to talk it out, and you do need to test it. And some people, like I have somebody a really good friend right now, and she was just saying just the other day, she's like, I really want to do this program because, and she gave me all the reasons. And I was like, no, you really don't need to do that. Like, you're spinning because you're not getting the result you want, but you already have all of these skills. Like, you have way more skills than anybody else I know. Taking the time to dive into somebody's program to learn another tool, another methodology, is just going to keep you exactly where you are. And I said, your clients do not need you to learn this new tool, because you already have so much that you bring them. And it was just, she kind of stopped and she thought about it, and she's like, yeah, actually, you're right. So, I mean, it has no impact on my life whatsoever, what she chooses to do, but I didn't want her, I just needed to reflect that back to her. So just make sure that you've got somebody in your corner who you can talk to, and then don't act yet. All right. We're still in that first phase. We don't act, especially if it feels urgent, or like we're feeling graspy, or desperate, or like if we don't do it right away, it's all going to fall apart. We don't need to feel like that anymore. Obviously, I'm talking to myself here just as much as you. So that's just your survival system talking. And you're not behind. When you start feeling this way, it's not because you're behind and because if you don't implement right away, it's all going to fall apart. What's actually happening is that you're just unregulated. Your nervous system is just freaking out. So what I would love for you to do is align your nervous system with the version of you that already has the result. So I've got some ideas here to regulate first. First of all, you need to do something that brings you out of fight or flight. And that could be breathing, um, box breathing. You could use that. So I've seen people do box breathing with all different numbers, but for this scenario, we'll just say breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. If you need to extend it, if you need to make it shorter, just pick a number and go with it. Another thing that I really like to do is shake it out. Like if I'm feeling really, really fizzy, I like to shake it out. Sometimes if I really feel like I really need to get rid of some stuff, I'll kind of shoot it out my fingertips. So I'll be walking around. I take my dog for lots of walks and I'll be in the park. Nobody can see me. And I'll just be imagining that I'm just kind of firing off all this energy out of my fingers and into the earth. And you can also ground, just do anything that you can ground yourself. So I like to imagine that there's a waterfall and at my tailbone and it's going down into the earth. I really love water, so that really works for me. But you could just imagine that you have a cord that's grounding you down into the earth. You could just stand on the grass with your bare feet. If that's not available to you, you can imagine that you've got these chakras on your feet that are opening up and just, opening up and connecting you down and grounding you. So just get out of that fight or flight. There's lots of different ways to do that. Then you can journal as your future self who already has the results. So right from this version of you that's already got the income, the success, the clients, whatever it is, she's also got the clarity and she's also got the ease, right? And like right from her perspective or their perspective and say, what are they focused on right now? What are they not stressing about? And how are they feeling? And like I said before, you can't push and hustle your way to ease. You need to gently bring that into your daily life so that your body gets used to it and doesn't completely self-sabotage when you start feeling like things are going well, or maybe things came easy, or maybe you're feeling joyful, and is that okay? So another thing you can do is record a voice note to yourself, just speaking it out loud. I have a friend that I voice note to all the time. We do it to each other. Sometimes it turns into more of a stream of consciousness. We're not really asking questions, but we just know that somebody's going to receive it and they can answer if they want to. So I find that speaking it out loud is just really, really good. Okay, so now we're into the next quarter. So from here, we're going from the first quarter to the full moon, right? And you have picked your decision. You have picked your direction, and now you get to stick with it. And look, at the end of the day, if everything in you is screaming that you picked the wrong one, well, it's another good time to talk to a coach or a mentor or a friend. But I would say stick with it and see what happens. So, because honestly, this is where people freak out, right? They're constantly like, oh, I need to tweak this. I need to tweak it again and again, or I'm really hesitant. Or they're like, maybe this isn't the right strategy. I've got to find another strategy. And look, I'm not saying this from any place of judgment. I do this all the time. When I am freaking out, I overcomplicate the crap out of everything. I look into all the different speakers. I listen to all the podcasts. I read all the books. And usually I already know how to do the thing. It's just that my body is screaming at me to not do the thing. And so it's just making me feel really, really distracted and scattered and discombobulated. So this is where you actually get to take action, even though it's not perfect. And it's not supposed to be perfect just yet, all right? This is the part where we just get to take action. So maybe you just need to block off time on your calendar to work on the project. Maybe that's the first thing you need to do. Whenever I'm blocking time off on my calendar, I have to allow for at least some sort of ramp up so that I can get into the zone. So allow time for that. And maybe that's listening to your favorite music. Maybe that's taking your dog for a walk. Maybe it's scrolling socials, as long as you don't get stuck down that rabbit hole. And also leaving room for research time, because, well, again, if you're anything like me, there's a lot of research that goes into a project. So just make sure that's on your calendar and that you're not trying to squish it in. You're actually giving it a really dedicated space. Another action you might take is just writing a sales page and publishing it, and sending emails to it, and sending social posts to it, and showing up to offer to deliver your offer multiple times, right? Even if it's not well received, especially if it's not well received on the first, second, or 10th try, just keep going, just keep taking action, just keep having conversations with people. And then ask yourself, if I already had the results I want, how would I be showing up right now? And just see if how you are behaving is in alignment with that. And then we just get to do it, right? One move at a time. Okay, so next phase, full moon to the last quarter. This is where we get to check in, we get to clean up, and we get to keep moving. So the full moon is so powerful. I very rarely sleep over the full moon, for the few days over the full moon, and it's not that sort of waking, like I don't wake up and just feel really annoyed that I'm awake. It's not a normal kind of insomnia. It's more like, oh my goodness, it's just a really good reminder of how powerful the moon is and how much of an effect it has on my body. So there's no drama there, but this is the phase where you get to keep going, but with a bit more data, a bit more of a sharper focus, because you spent that time testing and tweaking earlier. So here you get to check your results without any drama, okay? We get to look at the numbers, and we get to look at what you're doing. So what's clicking? What's not? What did you avoid that you can still take action on? And this is just feedback. It's not a failure report. So the next step in this phase is to keep showing up, right? Just a little bit smarter with a little bit more data. So what actions need to be repeated? What needs a small tweak? Not a full rebrand. If we're going to do a full rebrand, that's a whole new project. That's a whole new lunar cycle. Just what can we tweak? It might be a color. It might be a word. What am I overcomplicating that just needs to get done? Speaking to myself here, because I do always overcomplicate things, like I said. So maybe you could resend the offer, but with a clearer call to action. Maybe you could change a subject line, or, but don't throw out the whole email sequence. Maybe you could tweak your sales script based on feedback that you've been getting, feedback or no feedback. Maybe you've received a couple of people's objections and you're like, oh, that's good information to have. How can I tweak based on what their objections are? And then the next step in this phase is to clean up the loose ends. So we just don't want too many open loops where we're just thinking about all the things all at once. So are there unanswered emails that you can just knock out? Are there incomplete tasks that you can just clean up and tidy away? What is open in your brain or your browser that you could just you can just tidy up and get off your plate, so that you're not having to drag it into the next lunar cycle? You can ask, what am I tolerating that's draining me? That's always a good one. There's always things that we tolerate when we don't really need to. And what needs to be closed or finished so that I can move forward? And then the last step in this phase is you get to celebrate, because you did stuff, right? You took some action, and of course it was scary. Of course it was. If this was easy, if building a business was easy, if you hit it out the gate every single time, I wish. It's scary. It's really scary for our brains and our bodies, and we're really sticking our neck out all the time here, right? So celebrate what you did. That was really scary. And stay consistent, and maybe it's still going to feel really awkward. I mean, we're only just getting into this project, but did you stay consistent? Did you show up when you really didn't want to? Or did you choose rest because you knew that was actually what you needed? You needed to rest instead of push. Like, there's no wrong answer here, but just celebrate what you did. Okay. And a question for you. What would the future version of me keep doing right now without hesitation or overthinking? So have we think about that. And this is how you build sustainable momentum. This is how we stop trying to do all the things, and we actually just figure out what is going to work, with our bodies, with our brains, with our businesses. All right, now we are into the last phase, which is the last quarter to the dark moon. And this is where we get to rest and recalibrate. So I would say this is the best part of the moon cycle now, but it was the hardest one for me to truly embrace. And if you skip it, you're just going to keep running yourself into exhaustion. It's not actually optional. It's not. And we need to use it. We use this phase. It's a business strategy for us to rest and recalibrate and regenerate and just chill out for a bit. So this is how we actually recover from, like an athlete, because we're high performers here, right? Like we do actually need to recover and we need to really honor this time. So this is so the first step in here is evaluate what actually worked and not just what felt good or what looked good, what moved the needle. We just need to get really clear. What got you results this cycle? What do you want to carry forward into the next cycle? And then you get to just listen and course correct. Now, if something felt off or clunky or a bit icky, you can decide what you want to do with it next time. Now, maybe it's not that you're going to throw it out completely. Maybe it just needs a wee tweak. Maybe you tried something and you're like, I really don't want that. Like what I did with Pinterest. I put a whole lot of effort into Pinterest. And after it was actually 3 months, I was like, this sucks. I'm not getting any traction from Pinterest at all. This was a stupid strategy. I regret buying this program and doing all this work. But hey, now I know. Better to know now. And I just cut it loose. I shut down my Pinterest page. I disconnected the connection to my website. Nobody would have noticed because nobody was paying attention. So, it was good information to have because I'd bought that course quite a few years ago and I was like, right, I'm ready to implement this. And then I was like, nah, not for me, not for my business. Doesn't mean it won't work for your business, just wasn't going to work for me. So you get to decide what you don't want to carry forward, but I want you to be really, really conscious of the fact that you may have made some really good traction, even though it felt really uncomfortable, and your body is screaming at you. Your homeostasis is kicking in because you stretched out of your bubble, your safety bubble, and it's like, whoa, that was really scary. You've got to come back down. Remember all of these things, all of these terrible things that you've done or said or felt. Remember all the times you've failed before, and your body is just going to scream at you to not do the thing. It's tricky, but it is just trying to keep you safe. So we just have to be aware, like, was that thing really uncomfortable because it was wrong, or was it uncomfortable because it was new and I just need to expand my bubble, my window of tolerance so that I can actually keep moving forward with the thing that has actually worked. Like any sort of data point you got, that's working, right? Because now you have more data. Now you can iterate off that. So just be aware and just continue to ground yourself and give yourself that space to reflect and do stuff that's really, really nice for yourself. So a couple of prompts here. What does my future self want to move forward with? And this is where you just get to kind of ground and be quiet and still and then ask that question. Don't ask it from a place of like, holy crap, I'm absolutely exhausted. What do you want to do next? Because you're not going to get the right answer. So the prompt, what does my future self want to move forward with? And what do I want to do differently next time? Now, remember, this is just where you get to make notes and you're not taking any action at this point. And this is really hard for high performers, not non-performers. It's really hard for high performers to do nothing. But rest is not a reward for how hard you work. It is time to recalibrate so that you can actually build a really sustainable business. And something that I like to do in this phase, if I'm feeling like I want to run, but I know that it's the dark phase of the moon, I just tell my brain, I'm like, look, if you chill out for the next couple of days, you get to run as hard as you want for the rest of the cycle. And then my brain's like, okay, fine. So I usually make sure that I've got a novel picked out. I just like to read rom-com after rom-com. So really easy, light reading. It's not taxing. It's always going to end well. So I always make sure that I've got something like that picked out, or maybe an audiobook, or maybe a Netflix series, or something that's just going to let me just chill out. You could be hardcore and do no devices at all for a certain period. I've never tried it. Doesn't really appeal, but for some people it's really important. You get to commit on your calendar that this half a day or this whole day, zero productivity. And that is your commitment to yourself. It's trickier than it sounds, but that's your commitment. You can take a long, relaxing walk in nature. You could go to the spa. You could go to the pool. You could get a manicure or a pedicure or a massage. This is your time to really honor the fact that you are amazing and you can do incredible things, and rest is part of you continuing to do incredible things. So here's a prompt. What would I stop doing if I fully trusted that overflow is already mine? So you don't need to keep pushing so hard. You don't need to keep running. You get to find a rhythm that allows for space and ease. You get to feel however you want to feel when you finally reached your goal. You get to feel that along the way. That's really, really important. So whether it's joyful, or you want to feel confident, or you want to feel relaxed, you get to bake that into your day. And then, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like when you're staying in that energy before the money and the success is showing up. So your next income level isn't about working harder. I hope that you've heard me on this. And it's not finding that elusive strategy that's just going to explode your growth, because most strategies will work. It's just you need to work on who you are being as you're implementing the strategy. I work with people in my money program, and we go really deep into who we are being, what we need to get rid of. I help them get rid of all that stuff, all that outdated programming, all of that. The stuff that we often don't even know is there, but is really preventing our success. So we get to remove all of that. And I think if you are the sort of person who is working really hard, you're making money, but you're not making as much money as you should be considering how hard you're working, then book a call with me if this is interesting, intriguing to you at all. It's no commitment. I'm not going to do a hard sell. We just get to talk about the program. We get to talk about where you're at, where you want to be, and see if we're a good fit to move forward together.